Bienvenidos a todo el mundo en este webinario. Please just close the mic. We are hearing sounds, different sounds. Please stop all the mics, close your mics. As we said, this is a series that we want to do in English to make this more open.
Español o inglés.
Please close down all your mics. Thank you very much. I am very happy. I would like to thank His Excellency, the Ambassador of the Republic of Argentina, Mr. Daniel Chuburu, for having agreed to initiate this series. These series are called India and the Spanish-Speaking Diplomacy, Conversations with Diplomats in the Time of the Coronavirus. Actually, we are proposing a series of webinars by diplomats from Spanish-speaking countries. The aim is to know the background of diplomatic relations between India and the Hispanic world, the present state, the future expectations, and the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. We start in the time of the coronavirus, but really I hope that the virus will go, but we will continue to have these conversations even after this pandemic is finished. We live in very uncertain times, but one thing is for sure. This lockdown is impelling us to make better use of our technical resources. And these webinars are just an instance of what we are doing. It's the first time that we do a webinar of this sort. And we hope to begin, to continue this initiative. Diplomacy can also be understood as the art of overcoming geographical, cultural, and political distances through meaningful conversation. And in this regard, the webinar is a unique tool that enables us to share a same conversational space, cutting across distances and preserving the immediacy of contact in real time. We want to take full advantage of this tool to bring closer two areas of the world that have been separated by history, but that today are coming together not only for mutual interest, but also for the discovery of their cultural similitudes and for sharing their differences. For this first session of India and the Spanish-speaking diplomacy, we will have, besides Argentina, which starts today, countries like Chile, Mexico, Spain, Uruguay, and Peru. The event will take place always on Thursday at 6 p.m. Indian time. And the calendar for next session stands as follows. Please take note. It will be Chile on 4th of June, Mexico on 11th June, Spain on 18th June, Uruguay on 25th of June, and closing this session, Peru on 2nd July. I am really very grateful to the ambassadors of these countries for kindly agreeing to participate in this conversation, especially in these very trying times when they have to manage situations that arise from the crisis of the coronavirus. Thanks, really, for taking some time off. We would like, that it is an interactive session, and please, the audience you can send your questions via chat, mentioning your name and the place where you are staying. I will pass these questions to the ambassador, but I cannot promise to take all of them. I will try to do my best. So thanks very much, His Excellency, Mr. Daniel Chuburu, for being here, agreeing to opening this session. The ambassador has just returned from Argentina in a very, very long journey, and I'm really extremely grateful for all the effort that this implies, and also happy to have you back with us after being, stranded there in Argentina, your own country. His Excellency, Mr. Daniel Chuburu, has a degree in economic and business from the Universidad Complutense de Madrid in Spain, and he is also studies of the Argentine Foreign Service Institute in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Argentina. Actually, I will cut his curriculum CV short because I don't want to go long in that. But one thing worth mentioning is that he started his career in 1981, so he has almost 40 years of experience. He has been posted to the permanent mission of the Argentina Republic to the United Nations office in Geneva, and to the embassy in, between other places, to the embassy of the United States of America, Washington, as head of chancellery. He was also as ambassador posted to Kenya and to Mexico. After Mexico, he came to the embassy of Argentina here in India since 2018. And he has held different positions, such as president of the G77 plus China in Nairobi, Kenya. He was president of the Committee of Permanent Representative of the United Nations Environment Program. And he has been also director of Central America, the Caribbean, and Mexico. Thanks very much, Mr. Chuburu. And please give him, we'll start, asking a very first question, which I think is very important, just to know how old are the diplomatic relations between India and Argentina. It is true that already there was a consulate of Argentina in Kolkata in the 20s. And when did Argentina open his embassy in independent India? So welcome, Ambassador, please. He has the floor.
Thank you so much, Oscar. And let me start by thanking you as director of the Cervantes Institute for inviting me to participate in this webinar series that you're organizing. It is indeed for me a pleasure to be present in this one and to have the opportunity of addressing all your students and the people that are around the Institute itself. Let me tell you that the relations, as you said, the points in history that we found are particularly in the 20s, in the 1920s, the opening of a consulate in Kolkata. Then in the 40s, there was the opening of a commercial office of India in Buenos Aires. And since 71 years ago, we have established diplomatic relations with the independent state of India. So these relations show you that we have been from a long time connected to this country, and we have developed very good relations, but particularly very good political relations between India and Argentina. As two countries that have had an important role in the developing world, we have worked together a lot in different instances of the South. Let me point out, for example, our participation in the non-aligned movement at a certain time, the participation together in the G77 for many years and still now. Now we are sharing the G20. Particularly, we have shared a lot in South-South cooperation also. So there is a long history of common history between our two countries. And of course, we have to thank the government of India for its support concerning the Malvinas War for many, many years. So that's an important issue that we appreciate very much in our political relations. Although we have such good political relations, the economy or the commercial relations have not been at that high level. So this is what we mainly have to develop, and it's the task that we have nowadays to increase our bilateral trade in such a way that has a correspondence with the level of the political relations that we have with India. Let me start because you mentioned a lot about the virus and this coronavirus, the novel coronavirus or COVID-19. Let me say that this virus has been, or this pandemic has been unique in the history of the world. And at least in the ones that we know from the last 100 or 150 years. And still, I think that we have not seen all the consequences of this pandemic. What we are, and you said very well, we are in times of uncertainty. And I think that that uncertainty is the one that is defining the new relationship between not only Argentina and India, but the whole world. And I think that it's too early to call so as to say how this new world is going to be after the virus. We hope that this virus will come to an end very soon, although there are still a few months to go. In the case of Argentina,
yes, I think you are doing pretty well in Argentina regarding. I think there is not so many cases, not there. How are you reacting to that?
Let me go a little bit to that. I think that we, or the government, was very called at the quarantine or a lockdown very early in the process. We are now with more than 60 days of lockdown. And this has paid good results in terms of the possibility of holding the curve to go up to very bad numbers. At this point in time, and I will refer to the data that came yesterday to the knowledge of the people. Yesterday, we had almost 500 new infections, rising the total to 9,300. The number of deaths is in 403. And the recovered people are almost 3,000. So it's getting close to the 30% of the infected.
Ambassador, are you presently under lockdown in Argentina?
We are still under lockdown, particularly in what is Buenos Aires, the capital city, and the province of Buenos Aires. The big cities are also under lockdown, particularly Córdoba, Mendoza, and Rosario, particularly the biggest cities in the country. Although we have two provinces, which are our states, two of them have never had any case, and six other have not had cases for the last 2 weeks. Wow. So this gives you an idea of a lockdown that it has different geographical implications.
Well, your country is a huge country. It's a really half a continent almost. No, from Patagonia to Pampa, it's really an incredible country. Are the cases concentrated in the urban areas like province of Buenos Aires? In Patagonia, yes. You have also in faraway places.
Look, it was in a lot of the provinces, but as I told you, there are 8 that have no cases for the time being. So it's a little bit spread, but 85% is concentrated within the province of Buenos Aires and the city of Buenos Aires. So yes, it is an urban phenomenon more than any other thing. We are very happy with the results of this lockdown process because now we have been able to open a little bit the industry in a lot of our activities in a lot of parts of the country, not in Buenos Aires themselves, but close to them. There are a lot of sectors that are reopening. We have been able to hold the curve, and that has given us time to also prepare the country more in terms of hospitals and the readiness of the doctors to attend the cases of coronavirus. So for the time being, we can say that the process has been successful, although we don't know what's gonna come or what's gonna happen at the time we restart opening 100%, particularly in areas of big concentration of population. So still, as you said, uncertainty is there and we don't know where we're going to be headed. This coronavirus not only has have a lot of impact in the health sector, but also in the economy of Argentina. In this regard, I'll share with you just a couple of data. In terms of in March, that in terms of industrial activity, we lost 11.5 of this activity, and the worst sectors were fisheries and constructions, in which they lost almost 48%. And this was just a few days of the lockdown. So we expect that in April, the figures are going to be much worse. And as it has been reopening some areas, we hope to be getting out of that bad numbers of April in the month of May. So this is a process, and all of us are trying to hold it as much as we can. In terms of the rest of the industry is the one that has been more affected. For us, the rural activities, the agricultural activities have been going on, and as they are the main bulk of our exports, we have been able to hold a little the exports of Argentina, and we have done pretty well in terms of keeping all the compromises of the country in terms of satisfying the demands and in terms of fulfilling the requests that we had previous to the coronavirus. So the situation is a difficult situation. We hope that we're going to be able to get out soon of that. And let's hope that by the time we reopen the whole economy, we will be able to hold the consequences of it's in the hospital.
How has been the health system affected by the pandemic?
The health system has been working quite fine. And one of the good indicators is that the intensive care beds, the beds prepared for intensive care, are just on the 30% of occupation. So this gives an idea that we still have a margin for the infected to develop and not putting such an extreme burden on the intensive care units. The question, of course, is that there are two sectors that have been very much impacted. One is the residence for old people, that has been very badly attacked, and there is a big toll within the medical community and all the health community in general with the people that have been infected.
Just a small question about demographics. How is the age population in Argentina? More like Europe or more like India? I mean, you have like Europe, you know.
Oh no, I think that we are just closer to Europe, although the average of age in Argentina is less than Europe, but it's not as young as it is in India.
Okay. So let's move for the time being, and maybe we come back to the COVID. But let's move again, and I would like to ask you, because we know that the president, Mr. Narendra Modi, visited Argentina, I think, in 2018. That after that there was an official mission of the Macri government to India. Earlier we had already a visit of Cristina Fernandez de Kirchner, I think in 2009, if I am right. So the bilateral relations between Buenos Aires and New Delhi seem to have gained a new momentum. It's so. What can you tell us? What is the present state of affairs? And along with it, and sorry for this long question, how the COVID is going to affect all that and all these kind of relations?
Okay, I think that we are going through, and I started by that, saying that political relations with India have been going on quite well. And I think that there was a momentum there, and that was during our presidency of G20, in which Modi visited Argentina, and there was a lot of exchange between the ministers in both countries. So that was a particularly intense year. And I think that that got us to the moment in which first Prime Minister Modi went to Argentina, and then President Macri visited Argentina. We were able to sign there a new strategic partnership, and things were developing quite well till we got to the virus. And I don't want to put a blame on the virus for everything, but and although the virus is there, we have been able to keep on moving at a very high level in the exchange of relations. Even like 2 weeks ago, we had a very good conversation between the two foreign affairs ministers, and Jai Shankar on the side of India, and Minister Solá in the case of Argentina. And although the virus was there, but they were able to have a video conference or a conference between themselves, and that helps. So although the virus is putting some burden in the possibility of visits, also it has opened now the use of new technologies and the use of these video conferences. This video conference, at least in my humble opinion, is they are not the same as personal visits, but they allow you to be in touch more closely. And if you don't have personal visits, at least you can be much more closer than just using the phone from time to time. So it has advantages and disadvantages. And as it was said many times, and I'm not discovering it, all crises open up new opportunities. So what we have to build up is on those opportunities and try to keep on pushing on our relationship. What I said also before, and I want to state it again, is that this time of uncertainty is very difficult to predict what's going to be happening. I think that still we don't know how this new, and I will call it new, world commercial order is going to be. And we are still waiting to see the developments and see how all of us can contribute to the value chains and how we reorder ourselves in this relationship. I think that what we have to bear in mind is that we have the opportunity of having a much fairer system, and a system in which all of us can participate, an open system, and we have to take benefit of that. I don't know how it's going to be the final composition of this new order, but I think that we have a great opportunity before us, and we have to take good care of it.
So to the question, if I ask you the question, I think you have already answered it, but just to put it in a more specific way, if I ask you the question that do you think that the COVID crisis brings new avenues for solidarity between Argentina and India, you will say yes. That you have no, in front of these difficult times, nations, tend to come together or to be separated. And in the case of India and Argentina, there are these new opportunities.
I think that there are a lot of new opportunities, and let me stress particularly a couple of things. One is the way we have worked together between the two countries for the comeback of stranded Indians that were in Argentina and to the return of stranded Argentinians that were in India. Last night, I had the opportunity of coming back to India in one of those flights, and 140 Argentinians that were in India we had the opportunity of bringing them back home after 2 months, which was really a great effort between the two countries. And that shows the way we can work together. And more important than that is that during the crisis, we were one of the countries benefited by the generous policy of India concerning pharmaceuticals.
Oh, good.
And in this regard, when we have a regular demand of
hydroxychloroquine.
Hydroxychloroquine. And when there was a little hold in India of this element, we were able to get it and keep our industry functioning on that basis. We do use hydroxychloroquine not only for COVID-19, but for the development of some other medicines concerning dengue and malaria. So for us, it was very important not only to test. We were one of the countries assigned by the WHO for testing the use of hydroxychloroquine, but also to develop our own medicines in terms of malaria, as I said, and dengue. So let me thank a lot the government of India for that effort they did. And in the middle of the crisis, they were also providing us this element, and also paracetamol, which is also of a good use in Argentina, the generic of paracetamol. So these have been two little things that I can tell you about the possibilities of keeping on good avenues after the virus, and to express the solidarity of the countries in this situation.
So congratulations to the Indian government for this generosity in sharing the medicines with Argentina. And Ambassador, allow me to take already some questions from our audience, which are related to what we are speaking. And I would like to introduce a question of Praveen Srivastava. He stays in Delhi. And he's asking if there is any joint program happening between India and Argentina in any technological sector, like space, IT, health, at the university research center level.
Well, you know that's a very, and I thank the question, because this is a very important area. As I told you at the beginning, we think that we have to increase our commercial relationship, and one of the areas in which we are of the view that we have more possibilities is in the areas of high technologies related to sensible areas. And he has mentioned some of them. The area of the Pacific uses of ultra space, in which we are having some conversations between ISRO, which is the Indian organization that deals with this issue, and the National Commission for Aerospace of Argentina, in terms of trying to work together in the sharing of images of satellites and the development of common possibilities of some of the elements that are used in the building up of a satellite. Also in the area of radars, and also in the area of nuclear energy. Particularly in this area, we are working in a project in the Baba Center in Mumbai, which is a project for the enrichment of isotopes for medicinal purposes. It's called Mobileno or something, the project. But that's a very important project, and we hope that will be the starting point for a new cooperation, particularly in the area of medicinal uses of nuclear energy, and the sharing of capacities in both countries for the development of reactors. And particularly we do small reactors, not the kind of big reactors that are done in India. and we share some commonality in a few of the ones that we have in Argentina that are of can-do technologies. So that we're talking about possibilities of development of common works. So there are a lot of possibilities, and let me tell you that one of the most active sectors within the relationship is the IT sector, in which we have a lot of companies of India that are working in Argentina, as well as we have some Argentinian companies working in India in the same area. So that is an area with a lot of activities, and that we are very proud on how we have been developing it. And we're now trying to build up a center of excellency in IT between the two countries, so as to being able to train a lot of engineers in these technologies, so they can work either in India or in Argentina in the companies that are developing this kind of projects.
Very good. Thanks very much. And I think you also have a program in the Antarctica, no? Program with helping India also in the research over there.
Of course, there are a lot of other specific areas of research between the two countries. And Antarctica is, of course, one of them. But there are also a lot of them in other technologies that it's done between the scientists of both countries through the Ministry of Science and Technology here and our Ministry of Science and Technology over there. So there are areas in which scientists can work together, and they are doing it. So there is a lot of activity in this sense. I just wanted to touch upon a few of them so as not to bother you too much.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. We have here questions are piling up, but I think are interesting if you let our students and teachers, talk with you. This is the next question comes from Prajakta. She is a teacher of Spanish in Mumbai. And the question is, what role of a strategic partnership of India and Argentina can be played at the intergovernmental organizations like the United Nations, at the World Health Organization, on the background of a growing protectionism in the New World Order?
Well, I will start by the last part of the question. What it is said all over is that the protectionism is going to be rising up after the crisis. I'm not 100% sure with that, and I say that maybe there will be different measures to be taken by governments, because governments will have to ensure the recovery of their countries. And that is not what I would say traditional protectionism. It might come to the same consequence, but now the reasons for that are much more linked to the possibility of recovery of the countries and bringing the people back to work than just doing it for the sake of protection of the country itself. It's not protecting, it's trying to ensure that we can recover and go back to where we were. So I believe that it's still, we'll have to see how these measures are applied, and this is part of this uncertainty that we are going to be facing. Mm-hmm. For sure that in the international organizations, we have not only developed a lot of work together with India, but there are a lot of areas in which we are sure that we still have a lot of possibilities to keep on working together.
Thank you very much. We continue now another set of questions by Smita Sahe. She's a student of our Instituto Cervantes here in New Delhi. And we're coming back to the COVID. There is a lot of curiosity about how Argentina is doing with the COVID crisis. And she's asking if Argentina is following the American and the model from the United States, or the model from Germany? And also, it goes along with the other. There are two questions here related to COVID. What do you think about alternative medicine like Ayurveda? Can be applied? Is you think that it can be put to any use in this present crisis?
Well, let me tell you that I think I mentioned that we have been under lockdown or under quarantine, how we call it, for the last 60 days and a little more, and we still don't know when we're going to get out of that. So that shows you an idea that we are not in the American system on how to treat COVID-19, but we are much more on the German side or even on what's being done in India. So we think that the early establishment of that lockdown is the one that has allowed us to be in a safer curve than we should have been without that quarantine. In terms of one important issue that I wanted to mention is that we have developed a lot of tests in Argentina, and we are testing the population, not as much as it has been done somewhere else, but for the time being, we are in 2.5 thousand people per million that has been already tested. So we are over 120,000 tests of diagnostic tests that have been done. And recently, last week, we were able to develop our own test, and we will be able to produce around 100,000 of these tests per week from now on. So I think that will also help increase the number of tests that we have been doing and give much more a picture of what's going on in the country, because a lot of the infected cases are also related to the number of tests that you are able to do. So we think that we are in a good path, and we're with our own system, with our own test. I think that we are going to be able to cope with that very soon. So those are things concerning coronavirus. I don't know if there is any other question on that, because this. Yes.
Yes. You can continue, please. Yes. No, she was asking about Ayurveda and alternative medicine.
Well, you know
that can play any role in the treatment of COVID.
Well, you know, for the time we have a good development of Ayurveda in Argentina, and even one of the main doctors that practice Ayurveda in Argentina was locked down here in India.
Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and he has been working with us in the embassy, and yesterday night he returned back to Argentina.
Okay.
Dr. Sergio, he's a very good Ayurveda doctor over there. And I think that it's like every kind of alternative medicine, you can always find within any type of medicine things that can help out during a pandemic like this. Every tool that can be used is going to be used, because there is, for the time being, no single treatment for the COVID that has shown that it's 100% effective and that it's the only possibility. Treatment with hydroxychloroquine, the other ones with retrovirals. There are so many different options that I believe that everything has to be used in terms of helping the people to overcome this pandemic, or the effects of the pandemic.
Good. There are a number of questions. I will try to put some order in them, because questions are being here, and I am very happy to see that people are reacting and are curious to know. But then we will shift and we'll go after, because after all, the Cervantes Institute, as you know, it's an education center and it's a cultural center. We have a series of questions relating both to education and culture. And I will start with culture and then we'll go to education after that. It is very famous, it's very well known that Rabindranath Tagore visited Argentina in 1924. He remained there for 2 months as the guest of Victoria Ocampo, and he wrote a series of poems under the title of Urabi about his stay in Argentina. And now the question that we would like to ask is, first, there is interest for Indian culture in Argentina. And to put it also in another way, and this is answering the question of Devayani from Mumbai, what would you like to comment on the cultural diplomacy and how effective is this tool for soft power? So it's several questions in one. First, let's see if there is interest for Indian culture in Argentina. There are people interested in Indian themes, be it philosophy, yoga, literature, cinema, whatever. And then what do you think about cultural diplomacy as a tool for soft power?
Okay, let me tell you that Rabindranath Tagore and Ocampo are one of the symbols of our relationship. And because this is not only that he went to Argentina, stayed with her for a couple of months, but it's all that developed after that. And I believe that we had a very good opportunity of this. And that helped also a lot because Victoria Ocampo was a very good defender of the Indian cause. And even finally, she was a very much operative in the Pakistani-Indian war that gave birth to Bangladesh. So that was all because of her relation with the Bangla people through Tagore. So all of these is, of course, one important element of our common culture. Concerning the diplomacy.
Just allow me to interrupt for 1 second. You know that in Spain we are very envious of this thing because Tagore, he never made it to Spain, although he was supposed to visit, but finally he couldn't go. So we are very proud of having, and sharing this Hispanic connection of Tagore in Argentina because we never had him in Spain, no?
No, we are very proud of all these relationships. So I'm quite confident on that. Concerning the tool, the use of the tool of cultural diplomacy, let me tell you that for me, it's one of the most important tools because I believe that you can have whatever relationship you want between two governments. But that if you are not able to bring down that relationship to the people and make it a people-to-people relation, you will never strengthen the real relationship between two countries. The real relationship between two countries is much more linked to cultural relations, to cultural diplomacy, than to other aspects of that diplomacy. And even for the knowledge of the people of another country, that cultural promotion is basic. If you are going to go and buy a product and in the supermarket and you find that one is from a country that you know, it's going to be much easier to buy that than to buy it from somewhere that you don't know or have never ever heard about that. So it's a tool that it's very important and has to be used for the promotion of the country. So we try to do that a lot. In terms of the appreciation of Indian culture in Argentina, let me tell you that in Buenos Aires, we have more than 500 yoga centers. So that gives you a very good idea of the importance that people give to spirituality and the importance that people give to yoga and meditation and all that it's linked to that Indian spirituality, as it is called. And if you have an opportunity to see the people that were stranded from Argentina here in India, a lot of them were tourists, but a lot of them were doing practices or courses or learning or whatever in ashrams in India. So it is very much a part of our culture, this interaction between India and Argentina. We do have a very important Punjabi community in the north of Argentina, in Salta. You can never imagine that up there, so far from Buenos Aires, you can have an Indian community, but it has been there for a few generations. It's not something new, it's something that has been there for many, many years. And even among these stranded people back to Argentina, we have sent a lot of things that were in that group, because we're part of these Argentinians of Indian origin that were here in India visiting at that time. And of course, now we have another kind of Indian community, which is a much modern one, and that is related to what your student was asking before, and that was in terms of technology. But because a lot of these Indian investments in IT have been joined by people for a new Indian community that has been in Argentina, that are around 2,000 in Buenos Aires and growing. So yes, there is a lot of interaction between the culture, and there is a lot of important. Let me give you as an example. When Prime Minister Modi was in Argentina, he was received by a 10,000 people yoga class in one important cultural center in Argentina. So it's very much among us.
Oh, good. And we know very well that the publishing industry in Argentina is very alive, and that many books, many translations of Indian classics and related to Indian culture has been published in Spanish in Argentina, because of that. And just to dwell a little bit more on culture, and then we'll go to education. As you know, well, we've been doing things together. You remember that just before the virus came in our lives, we did that wonderful theater play based on a tale by Borges, Funes el Memorioso. We had the privilege to have you there. And also the tango workshops are quite popular at Instituto Cervantes. You are also organizing milongas regularly by the Embassy of Argentina. A very quick question: which aspect of popular Argentinian culture do you think are most appealing to the Indian people?
Well, I think that you mentioned it. Tango, it's a very important one. And because tango has been an international dance and singing for many years. So for us, it's one of the main elements of our culture and the way of expanding it. So we are very proud to do it in India, as well as we do it in a lot of different countries. And of course, we had the opportunity of having that wonderful theater masterpiece that you helped us, or in fact you put it in play in Cervantes. So there is a lot of interest in the culture of both countries, and we want to contribute to that. You mentioned the publishing industry in Argentina. Well, books are very important in Argentina. Well, you know that the city of Buenos Aires is the city with the most libraries or bookshops per person in the world. So wherever you go, you find a bookshop. So that's one element that links us to publishing and to books itself. We have developed nowadays, also as part of this promotion of our culture, a program that it's called Programa Sur, or South Program, in which we are translating different classical authors of Argentina into foreign languages. And so we ask every person linked to the translation sector to contact us and come with projects that we finance to translate and publish those books. And we have been very successful with India. We have a few pieces in Hindi, and we have also some in Bangla that we were able to present this year in the Kolkata Book Fair. And also we have some in, I think in Maharashtra we've done also one piece. So this helps not only the people that are linked to the translation, and that's good for you and your institute, but it's also a way of promoting our authors and promoting the possibilities of having books both in English and both in Spanish and Hindi, so people can get closer to our culture.
Thanks very much. We will close for the time being this chapter on culture, but I want to send you here the greetings from Vaishnavi. She's from Maharashtra, and she's telling me that she was very glad to be a part of the student exchange program to Santa Rosa in Argentina during the 2016 and 17. She put a question, but you already answered it about the cultural relation between the two countries. Okay, let's go now for a minute to the question of education, and we will be taking here again a few questions from several, both from Smita Sahay, from the student of the Instituto Cervantes, and also from Jackson. Jackson, he is a teacher of Spanish in Kathmandu, Nepal. He has an academy there. He's teaching Spanish there, Alta Vista. And basically the question is how the education sector is facing the situation of the COVID-19 during this time, when the schools been open, when the universities, I mean, how education has been affected in Argentina for this crisis?
Well, I think that education has been one of the sectors that, although it has been affected because people are not able to participate in classes, in presential classes, people there in the schools or in the universities. But I believe that on the other hand, technology has allowed us to keep on moving the sector quite well. And for the time being, schools are working on remote education. So kids from their homes are able to follow up classes with laptops and computers or whatever mean they have, so as to follow up what the teachers are doing. And university is working exactly the same. Even the first round of examinations have been taken last week in a few of the universities. So even that is also working. So we don't know how it's going to be the effect of these, but what we are sure is that the schools and universities have been able to readapt themselves to this new remote system, and they have been trying to cope with the situation as much as they can. For us, the virus started exactly at the time of the point in which we start the classes in Argentina. In our calendar, we usually start in March, the classes, and we go up to December. So unfortunately, the kids were able to go just a few days to school, and after those days, the quarantine was there. So they have been for 2 months on remote education. So it's working like, I believe here in India, it's working. So we are very proud of that system. Of course, there are schools that are doing better than others, because that depends a lot on resources and a lot on the teachers. But of course, everything is in place, and we hope that kids are not going to be losing this year. When they are going to be restarting, well, that's the million-dollar question, because I think that no one knows when that's going to be going on. For us, at least, what the president has said is that it's going to be one of the last sectors to recover, because we think that that will protect the kids and the spread of the virus within the families of those kids. So we think that schools are good. There is a plan to start before that the first ones to start are going to be the first and last years of each cycle. We have 2 cycles, primary and secondary, and of course that first grade in primary and 6th grade in primary are going to be the first ones starting, because they are the first and the last one for that cycle, and same is going to be happening with secondary. So that's the only hint that we have from the system, that they would like to start there and then keep on incorporating the ones that are in the middle of the package.
Very good, very good. Now, also concerning education, a very sharp question. I think that's a very, it's from, one second. It's from Aditya Kirannak. He's a senior marketing executive dealing with international education and consulting. And the question is Argentina a lucrative option for students willing to pursue higher education? It's an interesting question. And
it's a very interesting question. And let me tell you that I have confronted that question many times, because I really like to go here in Delhi or in India itself to visit a lot of universities and schools. So that's one of the main issues that we have always in front of us. Let me tell you that we have a very open system to receive foreign students. In Argentina, education is free. The public schools are open to anyone on basis of non-payment, so that it's free education. Of course, there is a private sector that has their own schools, and we have a mixed system with public. For us, public is what you call here government schools, and the private schools. All the public education or government education in Argentina is absolutely free. The problem that you face there is that the education in Argentina is taken in Spanish. So we don't charge anything to anyone that wants to go to study, but there is a requisite there, which is to at least know a little Spanish so as to be able to participate in the classes.
Very good, very good.
I don't know if that answers your question, but yes, you can join for grade and postgraduate education in the universities, absolutely free.
Well, there are many more questions, but I don't know if we'll be able to take all of them. And at least one more, in the sense that I think it's an easy one, and you can answer it. And I think it will be very useful to our Indian audience here. What is the perception of India in Argentina? How India is perceived there?
Well, I think that somehow I have responded that when I spoke about the importance of the Indian culture in Argentina. There are a lot of Indian restaurants in Argentina, particularly in Buenos Aires. So in the main cities, you can find a very good impact of Indian culture, and the perception of India, it's a very good one, and it's very much linked to the importance of India as a 1.4 billion people country, and the high development that it has been going through in the last years. And of course, in the issue of spirituality, yoga, meditation, Ayurveda, and all these special characteristics of the Indian culture.
Good. We should be closing already. As we say in Spanish, and you know very well, lo breve si bueno, dos veces bueno. Y ha sido muy buena esta entrevista. It's been really a great interview. I think most people can appreciate. Thanks very much for being with us. I can just ask you a question, which is somehow reflected by Praveen Srivastava. Can we read Mafalda in English?
Well, I think that there are some versions of Mafalda in English. The main problem of Mafalda in English is that it's a very Argentinian humor. And it's very much linked to the culture of Argentina. So I don't know if it's going to be that easy to do it, but I think that somewhere you can find some of them in English.
Good. So it's better not to read in translation. Learn Spanish if you want to read Argentinian classics and comic books, better in English than in Hindi or in English itself, no? So thanks very much. I'm really grateful because I know you are under a jet lag after a very long trip from Buenos Aires to here. I think it took almost 50 hours to reach here. So please stay with us and join us again for the next session of India and the Spanish-speaking diplomacy on 4th June. And this time we will have your neighbor, Chile, also with us. Thanks very much, Ambassador. It's been really a delight and a very pleasant talk.
Let me thank you and all the people that have participated in this webinar, and let me congratulate you for the initiative of having this kind of webinars that I believe are of a great help in what we have been talking about cultural diplomacy. Thank you so much, Oscar.
Muy bien, hasta luego. Hasta la próxima.
Chao.
Gracias. Chao, gracias.
Bye bye.
Muchas gracias.